Hello, everyone, and welcome to Expect Better in Real Estate, a podcast brought to you by Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Prosperity in Rochester, New York. Questions about real estate? Stay tuned for everything you never knew you needed to know. Have a better experience, get a better deal, expect better, and let us work for you.
Hey everyone, and thanks for listening to Expect Better in Real Estate. I am your host, Justin Brosnan, and today we will be discussing negotiating an offer and why it is important to have the right agent by your side. Today I'm joined by Sam Morreale and Tricia Ray, both licensed real estate salespersons at Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Prosperity. How are we doing today, guys?
Wonderful. Thanks for asking.
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here today. We really do appreciate it, as this is a very, very important topic because our job is to get people into homes. And part of that job is negotiating. So before we dive right into this, let's just talk about a little bit of your experience. I'll start here with Sam.
Well, I'm Sam Morreale, and I've been selling real estate full-time for about 38 years. I've sold a lot of homes, have a lot of clients out there, and it's been a great career, and I want to keep on keeping on.
And you, Tricia, how we get here today?
Hi. Yes, I'm Tricia Ray, and I have not been selling as long as Sam. I've only been selling about 15 years, so about half the length of Sam. And I just feel that real estate is my passion. I love doing it. It gives me a lot of satisfaction getting buyers into homes that they love. And I enjoy meeting a lot of people and making their dreams come true.
That's what we're in this for, guys. So let's get right into this and talk about the market we are currently in, which can be a very important end to when we get into the negotiation period. So what kind of market are we in right now?
I guess I'd have to say right now we're in a seller's market. Most of homes sell quickly with multiple offers, and they do delayed negotiations, which makes it tricky as well, where you can look at a home, but you can't put an offer in right away. So what the seller is effectively doing is collecting offers. So it makes it a little stressful and kind of hard to negotiate. Yeah,
so we're definitely in a seller's market right now where they're getting a lot more money potentially for the home than they may have a few years ago even. What does that really do to affect the negotiation end of it with that market that we're in? What are you seeing out there? Are you seeing some trends or anything along those lines?
Well, I think it forces the buyer to go forward with their best offer, and knowing that they have competition that they're up against. So I think for a buyer, you put your best foot forward, and you have to just hope for the best and do what you can.
I think that's a really important point you made there. So what you really want to do is put your best foot forward, right? But if we lose out on a house after we've done our due diligence, we put our best foot forward, we may not get every house then. If someone wants to go above and beyond, that's not their prerogative. But our job as agents is to get them the best price, the best house, the least amount of hassle. That may not be the house. We may need to move on. And losing out on a house, guys, isn't always the worst thing because we're setting you up for success with this investment. And with that said, why is negotiation an important skill to have as an agent?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, Justin, because I've found myself in this situation many times in the last few years. I show somebody a house they like. They say, Sam, what should we do? What do you think? And I'm always torn, and I tell this to my clients too. Do I tell them step up to the plate, offer $10,000 or $15,000 over the asking price, pay too much for the house and win the bid? Or do I tell them to be a little bit more conservative and maybe not necessarily win the bid, but not pay too much for the house? It's kind of a tough call, and it's not easy to be in that situation.
It's not easy, and the big thing is, how long are you going to be in the house? Is this going to be your forever home? Are you only looking at a 5 to 7 year investment where you're going to want to move on? Those are all factors that come into play when we're negotiating a deal here, guys. And that's why it's important to tell your agent what your plan is. I mean, plans change.
Good point.
They definitely change, but we definitely want to make sure we set you up for the most amount of success we can with the information you're providing us. One of the things we're seeing out there is we're not seeing a lot of days on market on homes, right?
Right.
What is that doing to the prices? We're definitely seeing them go up, but are we seeing any sort of areas where, you're seeing there's a lot more homes for sale in the area?
Real estate is so regional, it's hard to just generalize, but generally speaking, any home that's in good condition and priced reasonably is a pretty hot commodity right now. Don't you agree, Trish?
Yes, I do. And I think Rochester, we've always had a pretty stable market. We never saw the bubbles that the other parts of the country did. Rochester has always been very stable. But yes, we do have or the swing where it's either a buyer's market or a seller's market. But it's never, I think, as drastic as in the other parts of the country.
Perfect. What I'm noticing out there as well, guys, is anything that's on the market for more than 72 hours is probably overpriced unless there is a delayed negotiation, because the inventory is so low right now.
Agreed.
And it's a very difficult thing to decide what price you should do, because you don't want to underprice it. You want to get them the most money, but maybe pricing it right where it should be might get you a lot more money too. And that's part of the negotiation. And we don't just negotiate, guys, with other agents. We negotiate with our buyers, our sellers, and we're actually there to help them get through all this. And that's the big thing, which would lead us into another very important part of having a great agent by your side is the price, which everybody wants, versus the terms, which people may not take into account, but could be just as important. If it's not based on price, everybody out there knows what price is. What are we looking for in terms? Are you looking for specific types of financing? Are we looking for certain things out there that you're seeing that are going to make an offer look more appealing?
Right. Well, I would say the type of financing is important. How soon can the buyers close if the sellers are in a hurry? There's other terms that are important as far as, if it's a cash, that's always a good thing. So I tell sellers, you have to look at the whole picture, not just whoever comes in with the highest offer.
I agree with that too. Sometimes on my listings, I'm getting 6 or 7 or 8 offers, and it seems like we're not always taking the highest one. We're taking like maybe the second or third highest, because they always seem to have the bigger the deposit, the larger down payment, less inspections, a quick closing, or a flexibility and a possession date. So it's just not always the price, but there are other terms that can make the offer look appealing to a seller.
For a new buyer out there, what is this deposit you're speaking of, and where does that hold any value within the offer?
I'll take that one. It's one of my favorite subjects.
Okay, let's hear it, Sam.
Well, the deposit is a good faith amount of money that you put in that's held in escrow, technically for the seller. It's good faith. In other words, it shows that you're serious. You want that seller to take the home off the market and not sell it to anybody else, and commit to your time frame and on the good faith that you'll close. Now, a deposit, the amount of the deposit has absolutely nothing to do with the cost of the house. Now, this could sound crazy, but you could have a $100,000 house and have a $200,000 deposit. It has nothing to do with the price of the home. But it shows a seller that you're serious if you put a respectable amount of money down.
That's huge. It really just shows you have more skin in the game, because what it does is if you try to walk away at that last second as a buyer, it kind of just keeps their footing and keeps them on the hook there. And that's huge, because we don't want them just walking away because they get cold feet at that last second.
Right.
Part of our job is to be able to navigate through that. You brought up a really interesting point, and I think that is with the price. Sometimes we're not always taking the highest price. There's no inspection on it. That's a big thing that's happening right now on listings. You're seeing a lot more listings being sold without an inspection. I can caution you. I think we can all say that sometimes you got to be very careful. I deal with a lot of buyers, and sometimes I'm going to say, look, this house, you can't even fathom the idea of not doing an inspection, because there's a lot of things that could be wrong with it. But our job here is to make sure we inform you that an inspection is definitely a safeguard, but it's also a place where if someone else is willing to put it on hold, they're probably going to get it. As long as the price and terms are pretty comparable, right?
That goes back to what I was saying about giving your client the right advice. Like, do you tell them, and this is just a rhetorical question, do you tell them waive the inspection so you can get the house at the risk of maybe not finding something really wrong with it that you didn't know before you put the offer in? So it's a tough call. What I find, though, on inspections, you can do a home inspection, but then there's also other inspections you can request. Pest inspection, chimney inspection, radon. There's a million of them. But I know when I'm looking at an offer on behalf of my seller, if a buyer wants to do every single one of those inspections, I tend to want to pull back a little bit versus somebody that just wants to do a home inspection. Because then you get the perception that maybe they're being a little bit too picky or too overprotective of themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Do you got anything to add on that part of it?
Well, I don't see why a seller would object to having a home inspection. Yes, I think in an offer, if they go in, with no home inspection, I could see where a seller would see that as advantageous, but I would think that they would try to look at the buyer side of it. And, I don't think they would want to buy a house without a home inspection.
Good point.
Absolutely. And it's all about being upfront as a listing agent. I mean, if you know the roof is older and they're writing it down the property condition, I've had agents come to me with offers where they said, we're not going to come after that roof. We know that it's 20 years old and we know it is, and our offer is based upon that. And I think that's part of the negotiation too. I'm a firm believer in calling the agent before I submit the offer if I can get a hold of them quick enough to be like, hey, how quickly do your people need to move? What can we do to put ourselves in the best spot to get our buyer that home? Because that's important. If they need a 60-day close because they need to find somewhere to go, we want to accommodate that, and that just makes our offer look that much stronger. We're doing our homework for our clients at that point, and I think that's a really important part of it.
And if I could just add one other thing to that. When I tell my buyers when they are going to conduct a home inspection, and then when we, sign off on the release for that, I tell them don't go back to the seller with a laundry list of things that need to be done, but basically focus on safety items.
Major mechanics.
Yes.
Deal breakers.
Yes, because now that is, out in the open, if you walk away from this deal, those sellers are going to have to tell anyone else that comes along.
Yeah, they're going to have to disclose it.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for, disclose it. So just look for safety issues and ask the sellers for that and not ask for every little thing.
I'm talking about major mechanics usually and I educate my clients before we even get to that point, and as I know you guys do as well. It's the major mechanics. You can put a GFI in for $20. You can put a new lock on the door. We're not going to have them paint walls unless they've offered some sort of credit. We're talking about the roof. We're talking about those windows. If we didn't expect to see things out of the norm and they come up.
A cracked heat exchanger in a furnace.
Yes.
Live wires.
The high-ticket items. These are the major ticket items that we're talking about here, because this is what helps us make our clients get a good home and be able to afford to not be house poor. And we don't want them to have to go in and 3 months later have to get a new furnace, get a new roof. These are big ticket items that we need to be in there.
And that's usually what a good inspector does, is say, this, have some life left to it, but, budget down the road for whatever it is. So I think it's just educational for the buyer, so they know down the road that they may have to make these repairs. Absolutely.
And let's just talk about negotiation. What we're really trying to do here as agents, guys, is we're trying to negotiate a win-win for everybody here. We're trying to get a win for our buyer or seller.
Right.
And vice versa. The listing agent's trying to get a good deal for their buyer or seller there in that situation as well. But we all have to work together. You have to be able to talk to your clients about, hey, you may not be able to get that GFI or this, that, or the other. And how do you approach these subjects with your clients to tell them, hey, we can't really go after that if you want to keep this deal alive? Like, what are you guys doing once we get to that point on an inspection, I guess, specifically?
I always try to approach it from a point of view of being practical. Like, it's not necessarily practical to ask a seller to replace a GFI, because it can be done later. Or even a double tap inside a panel box is something that's not, the house isn't going to burn down. And there again, it depends on, there's so many variables. Is it a home that's a hot new listing that there was 10 other offers on? So then we really better watch our P's and Q's and not ask for too much.
And thank God we got an inspection at that one if there was 10 other offers. Well, we really can't go after them too much there, right?
Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. But you got to keep that in mind as well. Is it a great deal? Have we looked at 50 other houses and this is the house and we don't want to lose it? So there's other things to consider. But like you say, just to me, if a roof is leaking, if there's active plumbing leaks, if there's live wires that are life-threatening, if a furnace has got a cracked heat exchanger and the CO count is off the roof. I mean, those are things that are, I call them deal breakers, that if the seller doesn't fix them for you, the next buyer is probably going to want them as well.
I think that's the big thing to remember on the sell end, too, because you may kill this deal and hope the next person doesn't ask for it, but you have to disclose it. And now we have to disclose that roof has a leak, the heat exchanger is not working, and you have to disclose it anyway. So next offer you get, they're probably going to ask for it, just like you said, Sam. I couldn't agree more with that.
But I'm going to tell my buyer, don't ask for a handrail. You're going to take it down when you move the furniture down the stairs anyway. So things like that, you got to be, you got to look at the big picture. If it's going to really stop you from getting the house or getting a good deal on the house,
it's a cosmetic, and you can always tweak things cosmetically for relatively good price. If you can do it for pretty cheap and it's not a safety issue, I usually tend to, in this market, tell my clients, let's tread lightly. We're not just going to go ask for those things. And I think we can all be in agreement there.
Yes.
Another big thing I'm seeing out there and in negotiation right now, especially on listings, I'm sure you've seen, is agents losing their cool. Sam, I know you've seen it. I was in the office a couple times, heard people going and saying some things and vice versa. We all hear these things. Let's talk about how we can not do that. I mean, what should we be doing as agents to go there?
Well, I laugh. I'm smiling a little bit because I know as a younger agent, I had a tendency to lose my cool a little bit. Like if I would write an offer, I just want to get it through for my client. And that's okay, but you got to keep a level head. You can't get mad. You can't get frustrated. If you start getting into an argument with the seller or with the other agent, you could really hurt your buyer, your client, because they might not get the house. So you got to kind of maintain an even keel. And another thing you should try to do is always try to see the other side.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, here's an example. Let's say a house is listed for $150,000, and they bought it 15 years ago for $125,000, and maybe they've refinanced it 6 times, and they owe $142,000 on it, and they're listing it. Okay, it doesn't make the house worth any more or any less money, but if that seller counters for more money on an offer, at least I like to make sure my buyer knows that so that they don't take it personally that the seller is just trying to squeeze more money out of them. Maybe because they need that much to sell it.
It's all perspective there. And it's all getting the true story. We don't know if they're going through a financial hardship and this is their last hurrah before they have to go to a short sale or a foreclosure situation. We don't know. And that's where doing our homework as agents is extremely important. Building rapport with other agents so they want to pick up the phone when we call and actually do pick up the phone when we call, because that can be another issue. Is I know as a younger agent, I've only been in the business 5 years full time. My first few deals, I'd want to call that agent after I submitted it 30,000 times. Be like, did you get it? Did we get it? Did we get it? But that almost backfires. And I would look at it if I have another agent come in who's got 10 years and isn't down my throat, that knows there is a process and we want to follow the process. I'm probably everything else equal. I'm probably going to advise my client, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. He's done 80,000 more deals, and everything else held equal. We probably should go that way. Would you agree with that?
You instill more confidence. And the old saying, you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
Absolutely.
If you write a good offer, get it to the other agent. Don't shove it down his throat. Give him some time on it. I mean, obviously, you don't want to give him a week so that other offers can come in, but by the same token, you don't want to write an offer and have it expire in 2 hours because they're just going to either get mad or laugh at you. So you got to try to set it up to succeed, not to fail.
I think with that, too, is the big thing there is you call the other agent again. Hey, how long do you need to present this? Because
I do that all the time.
You have to, right? Yeah. Because if you don't do that and you put a 2-hour window on there, guess what? Your buyer's going to think they're going to know in 2 hours. Whereas if you called the agent and they said, oh, no, they're at a family function tonight and I can't make it over there till 8 in the morning tomorrow, please give me till 10 o'clock. That's where seeing the other side, too, I think is pretty prevalent, is let's be reasonable human beings. We all have lives. And I think to that point is we have to take a step back sometimes. We're all excited, right? But we have to make sure we set it up for success and saying, oh, like you said, Sam, 2 hours. 2 hours. Nope, you're not going to find out in 2 hours. We're going to set up a time. They're going to talk to them. And they may come back with something you don't like. They may have other offers and then ask us for our best and final, which is another big thing where I'm seeing right now. You're writing the offer. They got a couple and they're coming back to you and asking for your best and final. How do you approach your buyer in that situation and be like, oh, your offer wasn't good enough? And how do we guide them to get to that spot or put their best foot forward?
Well, actually, I was going to say something to the other point.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll talk about that
being when you were saying about, losing your cool, I think if you just stay professional, be respectful and realistic. And, but I think respectful and being professional are the two main things.
100%. You want other agents to want to do deals with you.
Absolutely. Because, your reputation means a lot in this business. And, if people want to work with you, or they'll see it, your listing, it's so-and-so's listing. Oh, yeah, she's very good to work with. She's fair. That's what you want. You don't want people saying, oh, that's so-and-so's listing. You just want to present a professional and respectful image and basically have your reputation reflect that.
Absolutely. Sam, do you want to pick up on the points we were going to make there before?
About highest and best, yeah, to me, I mean, I know when you're selling usually with a bank foreclosure, they'll, if they get more than one offer, they'll make you go highest and best. Typically, and this is just my own opinion, once in a great while as a listing agent, if I'm sitting there and 2 or 3 offers come in and they're all theoretically identical or close to being identical, you might have to do a highest and best. But if an agent told me that they had another offer and to give us their highest and best, I'm going to probably just read between the lines and feel like the other offer is probably very similar to mine. And that's just my own thought. But you just got to explain to your client that if they got more than one offer, and they can do whatever they want. And what I also tell my client is that, you know, if there's more than one offer, they don't need you anymore. I mean, that's their mentality is we have to be a little more humble and a little more laid back and give them a good offer. But, you know, if they have multiple offers, they might not even need us.
Exactly.
Not that I like that, but we got to just be realistic, too.
They might be using your offer to fish up another offer, too, to get it up a little bit.
Right.
Now, what I hate seeing is when we ask them if we had to go back and everything came in at the same time, we didn't expect, and all of a sudden 3 offers show up, and we want to give them a chance to bump it up. I'd hate to see someone on a $100,000 house offer me 95, and then all of a sudden we tell them to give us their best and final, and now it's 105. 110. Why all of a sudden are you willing to go to this price? It makes me as a listing agent feel a little nervous almost.
Right.
Because you only wanted to give me this. Now, what are you going to expect when you do that inspection or something like that? Are you going to ask for the new roof? Are you going to ask for all these things because you think you're entitled to it? I get a little nerve-wracked about that, seeing someone jump up that big that quickly, especially on something, I don't know, it's been on the market just a few days, and they were only willing to give me this, and now all of a sudden we have multiple offers? You're going to give me all this?
Or are you, as the buyer, going to wake up the next morning after your offer is accepted and say, what did I do?
Cold feet. And then you can walk away.
Yeah.
And there are going to be ways for you to get out of that deal, and that's nerve-wracking too. I think the last thing I kind of want to talk on now, especially in the seller's market, how do you feel about escalation clauses? And what is an escalation clause for people out there that don't know? Because I'm seeing them a lot more frequently, and I'm not a fan. But I want to hear your opinion on them, and maybe you can explain to us what they are, too.
I've never used one, and I don't particularly care for them. But it's when you write an offer, and then you put a clause in there, an escalation clause, saying you'll actually go higher, maybe to a certain number, and to beat out another offer by X amount of dollars. Like maybe you're offering 100, and you'll say you'll go to 110, but up to 110, but no more than 1,000 over the next highest offer if they can verify it. So to me, it goes back to what you say, Justin, about sending out a mixed signal. If you really like the house that much, why aren't you offering more money? So I don't believe in them. I don't like them when they come in when I'm a listing agent, and I don't let my buyers use them either.
I agree. I just don't think it's a good practice to do that.
Yeah, and for anyone out there wondering what it is, negotiation, what really is going in, and these guys have been extremely huge experts on this. I encourage you to, write me an emails, reach out to the podcast, ask us any other questions on negotiation. But some questions out there that, people are definitely going to have is, why should I use you to negotiate this offer? Do either of you have like a specific tactic that you go about when you're actually negotiating an offer on behalf of a client?
Well, I try to really get to know my clients and know what they want, and I really do work for their best interest. So I do gain their trust, and I feel that whatever information I give them and suggestions that they feel comfortable following my suggestions. So I just try to do the best for them. If this is something, when I ask them, can you see yourself living here? Is this really, when you walk in the door, because most people know as soon as they walk in, yes, this is where I want to live. And then I'm going to work my hardest to get that house for them, is up to whatever their potential is, because I really want to do my best on my client's behalf.
Yeah, and one of the things I'd like to do, and for my clients specifically, and I think everybody should know, is we're going to send you comps. We're going to look. This is what we're doing behind the scenes. I think is important too. Before we're actually negotiating, we're going to do those numbers. We're going to check to make sure, it wasn't just someone decided I'm going to throw $150,000 price tag on a house because we felt the need to, and we thought that was the only way they could get the listing, or the client said, let's list it at that, but it's a $100,000 neighborhood. Our job there is to actually educate the listing agent too. When I'm negotiating, I'll send a comp. If I know that house is overpriced by $20,000, I'm going to send you comps so you have some ammunition too, because my job's to get my buyer that house. And if you didn't do your due diligence, I'm going to do it for you to make sure I get my client into the house. So at least you have something to go to that seller with and say, uh-oh, here it is. This guy actually put these all in here, and I've been known to make them authenticized. So they have to present it with my offer.
Oh, really?
Because I think that's a great way that you actually get that to the seller's agent, or the seller themselves. Then they have to see it. Oh, my God, maybe I didn't do all my homework, or maybe this house isn't worth that. And this might be the best offer I get, because I think you guys can agree. Most of the time, the first offer, it's usually your best offer, especially depending on how long it's been there. But I can't think of many times, and maybe you can correct me here, Sam, your first offer tends to be the one you want to work with.
There's a lot of truth to that statement.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for you guys out there, is like, we're doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and that's our job as agents. And I think that's the educational side you should really understand, is a good agent's going to go do their due diligence. A good agent's going to make sure they know your plan so we can set them up for success. Nothing would make me more sad than my client overpaying by $10,000 at being a 5-year house and calling me in 5 years, and I have to go, market's kind of smoothed out now, bud. Yeah, now it's worth the exact same. And after the time you pay, you're this, you're that, you're actually going to owe about another $1,000. And we don't want to do that as agents, but we also have to listen to our clients. If you tell me to write that offer and I tell you, here, you want my opinion, here's where I think the price point should be, but you're willing to go to that point, I'm going to write the offer. At the end of the day, we're vessels for these guys, right?
I always tell the client, you're the boss.
You are the boss, and we're going to work for the boss because that's our job. But we are there to educate you, and all the way through. And I think that's important, is to make sure you do get that education before you just go and throw an offer out blindly. This is the biggest investment 99% of people are going to make in their life.
I always feel like when I part of my job as a real estate agent is to try to give my client the continue to give them the right advice and good advice, whether they want to hear it or not. I'm getting paid really to try to give good advice.
I saw a really good meme yesterday on that. It was, I just gave $10,000 worth of psychological advice and then realized I'm just a real estate agent. I thought that was, it pretty much summed up on the negotiation. Yeah. We take into account your feelings, how much you want to be there. We do a lot of things behind the scenes that are really setting you up for success. And I think that's a great place to end today. If you guys have any other points as far as negotiating things that you're seeing out there, anything in the market that you really want to jump down on here, because I think we've covered a lot of stuff on this.
Show your buyer a lot of houses, and they'll get their education as they go along, because they're shopping and comparing when they going from one house to the next.
An educated client is what we're looking for too, because it helps you guys make informed decisions, and that's why we're doing this podcast, is to help you make informed decisions. So with that said, I'd like to once again thank Sam Morreale and Tricia Ray for being here today. Really do appreciate you guys being here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yep. Thanks, everyone, for listening to Expect Better in Real Estate. I'm Justin Brosnan, and as always, I'm keeping the real in real estate. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Expect Better in Real Estate with your host, Justin Brosnan. Do you have questions or want to just tell us how awesome we've done? Connect with us on our social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at BHGRE Prosperity.